All right, President Trump is hosting a social media summit today with some of his biggest media supporters and even lawmakers. The president, a vocal critic of social media platforms, saying they silence conservative voices. So joining us to discuss this and more, investigative journalist Ben Swann. So Ben, tell us a little bit about this social media summit. Why is he hosting it?
Well, if for no other reason, I think he's hosting it to get under the skin of a lot of people in mainstream media. So essentially, the president is issuing this invite to different new media figures and members of Congress as what he calls a social media summit. And if you've been watching the news reports over the last couple of days, the mainstream is losing their minds over, number one, the list of invitees, and number two, over the fact that Twitter and Facebook and Google were not invited to be a part of it. So they were furious. How dare you hold a social media summit and not invite social media giants to take part in it? The point of the summit is to talk to some of these new media figures, and most of them are conservatives, about the idea that they are being censored on social media platforms, on Google, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and that they are not able to reach their audiences either because of outright banning or shadow banning. And so some of the people that the president has invited, people like James O'Keefe with Project Veritas, Tim Pool has been invited to be there. A lot of these folks who have made these claims in the past, and that's who the president's talking to. All
right, Ben. So here he is hosting this, invite-only summit. Isn't the president, by hosting this sort of, conservative consortium, isn't he himself then guilty of silencing voices of dissent?
Well, I don't think by hosting the event, he's silencing anyone's dissent. Anyone can dissent at any time. Just because, and we've talked about this a lot, just because somebody is not invited to go to a private place does not mean that they're being censored. They have the right to speak about it. And by the way, there's actually a lot of arguing within conservative circles about who was invited and who was not. InfoWars was not invited. No one from Alex Jones' operation was invited. Paul Joseph Watson was not invited. So those guys are very angry that they're saying, well, we were actually deplatformed and we weren't invited. Why aren't we going to be there? Laura Loomer was not invited. She's angry about it. So it's kind of weird. I almost feel like, to an extent, President Trump has actually created anger on both sides. The mainstream's mad at him, and conservatives are mad at him about who actually made the list and who didn't.
Ben Swann, obviously you're on the air with me right now. Ben Swann not invited, Manila Chan not invited. What's up with that, President Trump? I mean, hello, social media people, alternative media, right?
Yeah, and a lot of who's getting invited here, I think it makes sense. Some of them, are maybe a little bit out there in terms of their beliefs. But look, when you get Charlie Kirk or James O'Keefe in there, Tim Pool, those guys who have really been trying to raise the flag, and I think O'Keefe more than anyone, because he just did this report about the machine learning fairness program that Google has. But I think there is an important point here, which is that the president is continuing to push this idea and keep in the mainstream the idea that there is a censoring going on. And that's one of the things that is upsetting when you see what the Daily Beast is writing, BuzzFeed is writing, Vice is writing, NBC News is writing, USA Today. They're all angry that the president even talks about this. And if you read the articles, they keep referring to it as this fake concept that critics, conservatives are being censored. The president knows he's headed into an election cycle in which last time all those dissenting voices helped him a lot on social media. He will not have the same kind of support this time, not because the support isn't there from those folks, but because their voices have been so limited.
Okay, all right. So he's taking a new tack heading into 2020. And while I have you here, one more question I want to pose to you, talking about tech and all of this. Over in France, they're ready to impose a 3% tax on big American tech, essentially. Talk to me a little bit about that. Do you think it's a fair move? President Trump seems to be claiming it's an attack on American businesses.
Yeah, President Trump is kind of back and forth on all this kind of stuff, right? At one time, he says he wants to break them up, and then he gets mad when someone else wants to tax them. The problem with what France is trying to do is France is essentially trying to say, we're going to tax these companies because they keep violating the law, and so we're just going to start collecting money from them on the front end, not just issuing fines on the back end. I'm not sure which is really the right tactic or wrong tactic, except to say that these big tech companies do keep violating European law, and they do keep violating laws in countries like Germany and France. And then they pay a measly fine for it, and then they continue to break the law. And something has to be done about that.
Yeah, we're going to be hard-pressed to find anyone that sympathizes for people like Google, big companies.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Ben. Always appreciate your take on this stuff. Ben Swann, thank you.
Vanilla, thanks.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.